My name is Quagersall. Welcome back to another EU4 1.31 Dev Diary. It is the 25th of August, and we are going to be looking at PEGU, Lanna, Sukathai, the SHAN nations, the Burman nations, and the Highland tribes. A lot of little stuff today, a lot of stuff that adds together, and if you like to play some of the kind of out-of-the-way nations, this is probably the stuff that you're interested in. Now, this picture here says Restore the Mon Hegemony in Southeast Asia Update. And I believe they're pointing out this, the Ramanadesa formal tag for PEGU. But there's some interesting things in here. And it's almost, they haven't talked about Lanzhang yet, but they did talk about Ayutthaya, and I think that's, you can get it renamed. We'll see. PEGU is the last independent Mon kingdom at the start of the game. It's the last sovereign Mon state ever to exist, besides a brief period of restoration in the 1700s. Mon people and culture were once dominant in what is now Myanmar and Thailand, but the Thai migration and the subsequent establishment of kingdoms such as Sukathai, Lanna, and Ayutthaya, as well as the rise of the Bamar kingdoms like Pagan and Ava, forced the Mon to retreat to what is now Lower Burma. Were ruled by Binyan Ran, and his successors celebrated Queen Shin Sabu would preside over PEGU's golden age of peace and prosperity. So PEGU is the only state that we'll talk about today that gets the full mission tree. They do have a decent one. Going to have you eventually get out to dominate trade out in Sumatra, but also go all the way as far as Bengal. The Golden Land, I believe, Preda Pagan is pushing further up this way. Devarathati. I'm sure I'm still saying that incorrectly. Looks like it's a state that you can establish. So a lot of these must be part of the mission tree, which is pretty interesting. They're looking at making you make a lot of subjects in these mission trees in this area, so that wouldn't surprise me. And let's see, what else do they have to talk about? Resistance to Bourbon requires a vassalized Tango and Prom, as well as a larger army than Ava. Permanent claims on Ava, subjugation CBS on Lanna. I don't see Lanna listed. So they might have either already integrated it or one of these two. It's not this one, obviously, but that looks like Sukathai. We'll see. Restore Hara Funchai mission is where users CB against Lanna. Exactly, you must own or have subject own all of the Chiang Mai region. If you complete this mission by vassalizing Lanna, its primary culture will change to Mon, and it will be renamed. Nice. You also have the subjugation CB against Ayutthaya. Similarly to the mission above, recover Devarvati, task you to conquering all or subjugating Ayutthaya. If you do this by vassalizing Ayutthaya, its primary culture changes to Mon, its name changes. An ancient civilization that spoke the Mon language, you receive a permanent negative 25 culture conversion cost modifier that will help you with the next mission in this branch. Mon resettlement mission requires spreading the Mon culture to at least 30 owned provinces, restoring the ancient Mon culture hegemony in the region. You reward with 50 prestige and negative 10% technology cost for the next 50 years. Oh, why couldn't that be to the end of the game? That would have been a nice incentive. The mission tree has a variety of requirements and effects that I can't talk about yet, as they involve unrevealed code features that may not ultimately make it into the game. Okay, so that to me says that they're testing something and they think it's too powerful, so they're pulling back. Completing the final mission, the Golden Land, gives the option of adopting the Chakravarti reform discussed in previous Dev Diaries, as well as changing your government rank to Empire and adding 100 of each monarch point. That's pretty nice. Your country will be renamed to Ramanadesa, representing a shift from a mandala system to a nation state. Besides their mission tree, PEGU also receives a couple of new events that I'll let speak for themselves. First looks like letting the queen take over, and then getting a new king. Okay. Some nice stats. I'm sure there's some good stuff there. And then this looks like a government reform. I was looking at this in just a second ago. Gain 1,000 manpower or 200 sailors upon construction of barracks, training fields, docks, and dry docks. Construction cost is reduced by 10%, and national manpower modifier is up by 10%. That's pretty good. That's nice. If that's a tier 1, that's really nice. Since we're talking about PEGU, the Sailor Mon achievement should be a little easier now. I've added new Tier 3 government reform to all countries that are Thai, Burma, or Cambodia. So it's Tier 3. I'd have to look at Tier 3 and see what that is. So I'm loaded up as PEGU in the current patch. And Tier 3 is the one with monthly autonomy change or max promoted cultures, which are fine, but I think that Tier 3 one that they just showed was a lot nicer. And along with this government reform, they also have a change to trade companies. So it looks like now that Burma has 2 exits, one of which can go down to Siam, and Canton can now go to Siam as well. So in this area, I think it's obvious that you're going to want to move to Ayuthya's area and start pulling trade in from 2 different directions before you move down into, say, Malacca, and start trying to build that up. It's really nice. But that's a significant change because currently, I believe only Burma and Siam are only outs. Yeah. So currently, Burma goes only to Bengal, and it doesn't pull over to Siam. And Canton doesn't come into Siam. It's only an exit node. So that's a significant change and allows you to keep some of the trade in this area, in this general area. Also, it looks like all of this has been shifted over to Burma. So Lower Burma is now actually in Burma trade node. Interesting. But as, say, PEGU, you could also take over Bengal and pull it this way instead of pulling it to Siam and let your vassal get all of Siam. That's interesting. I think that's a good change. Alright, next up is Lanai. They have the generic Southeast Asian mission tree that we've talked about in previous Dev Diaries. But in addition, they have 4 missions just for them that focus on trying to form Siam, conquering Sukathai, subjugating Ayutthaya, and a few other small things that will help them. You have to own Chiang Mai, Sukathai, and Ayutthaya to form Siam, so most of the stuff on there. Million rice fields unlocks advanced irrigation estate privilege like the Khmer, 10 development cost reduction in grain producing provinces, and protect the shrine refers to a minor, but in my opinion, pretty cool scripted mechanic called the Emerald Buddha. Oh, cool. So you go conquer Chiang Mai and you get to steal their Buddha. I'm sure they have a massive Emerald Buddha in that area. It's important, like those things usually are. A permanent province modifier initially present in Lanai's capital of Chiang Mai. This modifier provides your company plus 0.1 monthly karma, and a decision is available to renovate the shrine for a cost and reverse the effect. So it instead provides -1 monthly karma. Depending on your current needs, you can switch the bonus back and forth endlessly so long as you can afford the cost. Oh, that's pretty cool. Historically, the Emerald Buddha changed hands several times in her period, being appropriated by Longzhang and eventually Ayutthaya. In EU4, any country and Eastern religion group can seize the Emerald Buddha for themselves by occupying its present location. Losing control of the Buddha will hit you with a -20 prestige and a 10 legitimacy hit, so you probably want to guard this sacred relic closely. This gives Buddhist players a new way to control their karma and encourage competition over control of the Buddha. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. I really do. Alright, Sukathai. Your mission is to restore Sukathai, absorb Ayutthaya, and subjugate Lanai. Sukathai receives only a very small set of missions, and like Lanai's missions, they are essentially focused on acquiring the provinces you need to form Siam, and therefore getting access to a much larger mission tree. But that's not all for Sukathai. In 1444, the ruler of Sukathai is Trelak, a prince of Ayutthaya appointed as governor of the once independent realm. Trelak would go on to become king of Ayutthaya, and this is now handled by an event in EU4. When Ayutthaya gets Trelak as its ruler, the above event fires, and typically Ayutthaya will simply inherit Sukathai. Okay? However, if Sukathai is in the player's hands, then the event works very differently. The player can choose to make Ayutthaya into a vassal, separate from Ayutthaya entirely, or the mechanically best option, make Ayutthaya into a vassal and gain control of the western part of their territory. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's kind of like how the Iberian wedding, when you're playing Aragon, fires in the opposite direction. I like that. I know it's not as historically accurate, but it helps to make a player attempt in that start of Sukathai here more workable. I like that. Oh wow, I just read a little bit of what's coming next. But that's cool. You get 3 full states, get your new guy, take over, and Ayutthaya switches from being your overlord to your subject. I think that would be the best one. I mean, you could take his full thing as a subject, but why wouldn't you get the land? Although you'd have to core it. Most likely have to core it. So maybe if you were already relatively big and you didn't have a lot of admin at the time, you might just take him as a vassal. It's interesting that they have all the options there. Anyways, let's look at SHAN states. So I've never seen that many things happen from one mission tree. Like, I've seen where you get a lot of stuff, but this is integrate or inherit 7 countries and permanent claims on everything that they should have had, basically. And you change to SHAN. And subjugation, Casabella, and Ava. So 7, okay. A colleague affectionately referred to the SHAN missions as a mission stick. While it consists of only 2 missions, they pack a punch and can allow you to expand in a unique way. The first mission requires that all countries with SHAN primary culture are either your ally or your vassal. Additionally, a total of 15 provinces must be owned by countries with SHAN primary culture, and you must have the largest army of all SHAN cultured countries. When you complete this mission, you immediately integrate all of the other SHAN states and gain permanent claims on all SHAN culture provinces that you do not own after the integration. You will also form the SHAN tag and gain a subjugation CB against Ava. This represents the formation of the Confederation of SHAN states led by Mong Yang, which banded together to defeat Ava in 1527. The SHAN domination mission requires subjugating or conquering Ava and rewards permanent claims on all of Burma. Additionally, if Ava is your vassal at the time of completion, it will change its primary culture to SHAN, and its rulers will be replaced by a prince of your dynasty. The SHAN states can form Siam for access to their larger mission tree. So that sounds like the best way to form Siam. Like, you find a way to make friends with everybody in the SHAN area, and then you click a button to integrate them all. So you can go over, you're probably like 7 out of 4 or something like that. 6 out of 4, 7. It would have to be at least 7. And then, as with allies, maybe a subject or 2. And then you push this button, and then you've inherited them all, and you can shift your focus to bigger things. That's really good. And then, of course, Siam mission tree that we talked about, I think that was like 2 weeks ago, is pretty decent as well. That's pretty cool. I like that. I'm gonna guess that the AI is never gonna be able to pull that off. And now into the Avan mission trees. The Tango mission tree has been slightly reworked. It's now accessible to Ava and Prom. Okay, as well as Tango itself. So they show Avan mission trees and they talk about Tango. Yeah, that makes sense. They're all related. This tree remains limited to owners of the Dharma expansion. Okay, so there is some stuff that's tied to that. They don't want to devalue an older DLC. The Chakravarti mission from this tree has received a couple of notable additional rewards, and now gives you the option to switch to the new Chakravarti government reform discussed from previous Dev Diaries, as well as cosmetically changing the name of your nation to Burma. Oh, that's cool. I like that they're doing more name changes and things as things evolve. Alright, last thing today, I hope you're up for an extreme challenge. Stateless Society. Our people have consciously chosen not to organize into a state, preferring simple lives free from oppressive hierarchies prevalent in the lowland realm. Morale of armies plus 15%, fort defense plus 75%, and governing capacity minus 99%. Wow. The highland tribes of Raid, Jara, and Koho begin with the Stateless Society reform. This gives them a massive 99% penalty to their governing capacity, making it almost impossible for them to expand. To make things worse, they are all animist tribes that have not embraced feudalism, and they are not tributaries of Ming. Their only advantage is a high starting morale and their defensible capitals. Play these tags if you fear nothing and love pain. Stateless societies always reform into a peasant republics. Wow, yeah, that would be quite a challenge. That's all for today. Next week will likely be final Southeast Asian content dev diary. So I'll try to include as much of that content that I haven't revealed yet as I can. That's going to include a look at Lanzhang, as well as a variety of nations in maritime Southeast Asia like Sunda and Ternate. Until then, have a good week. Very nice. So that's cool. Now we're going to get to the end of content Dev Diaries, which probably means they'll go into like mechanics, any bug fixes, any things like that, which is pretty important. There is one other thing that actually there's two other things I want to address. First of all, we're going to be talking about an update from Johan. This is actually yesterday, so some people might have already seen this. And he's just talking about, he knows there's a concern with the pace of patching, but that they're working on getting a big patch, of an important patch out as soon as they can. They don't want to get it out and just cause more bugs, basically. We're focusing on eliminating the major bugs many of you have noted. AI spiral. So there's a debt spiral thing going on with AI having, I believe it's connected to the mercenary mechanic. And also they're spending too much money on some of the new buildings that don't give them money. So they're debt spiraling themselves, and it could be a big problem. But there's also a max tag bug. If you have a certain number of client states and colonial nations that form, it can actually break your game. I've gone to World Conquest and to the end of the game several times without running into it, but I was also a colonizer and got to the colonies early, so we'll see. They're also setting up their new Tinto studio. If you guys aren't aware, they set up a new studio just for EU4. I believe it's in Catalonia or Spain somewhere. So yeah, that's really cool. That indicates that EU4 is going to continue to get devved for a while, or that possibly EU5 is on the way. All I know is that it indicates an expansion and Johan getting to do more stuff that he wants to do, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good for the health of the games that we all love to play. Anyways, your patience is appreciated. Yeah, I think I will. Let's see. I'm gonna say the same thing this guy says here. Like, just read this guy's comment. It's basically what I think. Like, I'm very happy. Like, I'll cope with whatever problems are happening in the game as long as I know they're being fixed. If we get no communication, I start to get a little disgruntled. But if there's something going on and they're working on it, you know, more power to them, and I'll support them through that process. And then also, just back to the Dev Diary, there's one comment that I loved here. This guy, he's talking about, if you take the Highland tribes, you form Georgia, you take defensive ideas, you move your capital Salzburg, you build ramparts, take all the fort defense policies, turn on the defensive state edict, hire a fort defense advisor, max out mysticism as a Muslim, get both a local and global fort defense event, and have max power projection, you will have 333% fort defense. 130-day long siege ticks go burr. I love it. I love that people know the game well enough that how to stack all this stuff, and then go and do all the math, and I love it. I love it. But anyways, that's gonna be it for today's Dev Diary. Next week is apparently the last content Dev Diary, and then we might get to know how long it is until 1.31 comes out. So that would be super nice. But they're concentrating, all of Paradox right now is kind of stepping back for, hey, that was for Crusader Kings 3 coming out in a week. So I'm sure that's going to take their time for now. But anyways, I will see you guys in the next Dev Diary video for EU4. Bye for now.